Well, many YouTubers have weighed in on the SL7 Tarmac recall, and many have given their opinions about the steerer tube recall and the parts and what the failure criteria could be. Some have even made a joke of it, and some are even claiming that they're speaking the truth. And one of those is Ronald Kuba. Now, let's go and see how much truth Ronald is really speaking after we roll that intro. Now, Ronnie, I hope you don't mind me calling you that. This is not a hate video or anything like that, but I do have a little bit of a problem with people calling their video the truth, and really it's more of an opinion than truth. And I do believe that in this video where you said the truth about the SL7 Tarmac recall, it was pretty much more of what you felt in your opinion. So I just wanted to clarify that with viewers. Now, we all know there is a step difference between the truth, which is like reality, and an opinion. Now, to give an example of that, you will say that is a potato, and a potato is a vegetable, and that's the name of that potato, and a potato is a potato. You can't just say it's an orange or something else. But an opinion would be, oh, a potato is a really favourite veggie, and I like the taste of it. So you're surmising that because I like it, that it's a popular vegetable. So you're using your experience and what you've seen around people, and that's what we call an antidote, and that's an opinion. Well, now let's just look at the pure facts surrounding this whole SL7 Tarmac recall, and I made a bit of a list here, so I'm just going to read off it. Now, the first thing is that there was a recall, and Jurian Ryder, whether you like the guy or not, or think he's an idiot, or whatever you want to say about him, he called this out early, and it was a fact. It was true. It's now official, so what he actually said is true. So that's a fact. Specialized have had a recall on their steerer tube, and some of the parts need to be replaced, and you need to look for marks on the steerer. That's completely fact, and that's what's been put out by Specialized. Now, the other one is that Specialized obviously have concerns about the integrity of that part of the bike on the steerer tube. Now, if there was no problems with that, or there was no concerns about any failures or incipient faults in a steerer tube, Specialized would never have had a recall, because for a company to do a recall, it really affects their brand name. It also means that they have to retool, they have to make new parts, and that takes some extra cost. They need to be sent out to their distributors, and then they need to pay the distributors to do the work on those bikes. So it's really a bit of a slap in the face and a financial burden to the company. Now, Ronald also says they test their bikes. Now, this is true. They do test their bikes, but to really be aware of how they test the bikes and whether they actually stress the steerer tubes, you'd actually have to go and look at the standard they're using to test the bikes. Now, I do believe that most of the bikes are made and tested to a European standard. I'm not certain exactly what that is, but that seems to be the industry standard. And what people don't realize, it's only one frame that's tested, and that's what they call a type test. So what they're doing is they're testing the design of that frame. They don't do batch testing or anything like that to just set one frame off. They may send some more off if the standard requires more, because there could be some destructive testing, and if the frame is destroyed in one of the tests, then they need to use another frame for the follow-up test. Now, I'm not too sure if there's any destructive testing associated with that test or not, but what it is there's one test done for that design. So yes, they are tested, but that design is tested, and that doesn't necessarily mean that all flaws in the bike can be accounted for. Now, Specialized must have been aware of this problem for some time, because they would have had to gone, oh, okay, then we found, or we've had some feedback, or we've done some testing ourselves or from World Tour riders, we've actually identified there's been some wear that they didn't account for on these bikes. And what they would have done is they would have said, hang on a sec, we need to have a bit of a closer look at this. They would have need to have an evaluation, or they had a number of failures that had come back to the company, and they would have done a risk assessment saying, yes, this is not 1 in a million, this is probably 1 in 10,000, or a percentage of failure that's higher than that they would normally expect with their design criteria. So then what they would have had to do is say, hey, look, how are we going to fix it? They would have had to design a remedy. They would have had to then design the parameters for making that part, engage a company to make those parts, press them, and also work out a solution, and then actually have the parts made, send them off to the distributors to have them ready, so when they announce the recall, that people can take their bike into the bike shop and they can have all these things changed. So the fact that some people are saying that, hey, they knew about this for a long time and they didn't say anything would have been 100% true. Now, let's just have a look at opinion. Now, I do believe Ronald made a lot of opinions in his video, and they're not really truths. They're just his idea of what he feels is the truth. And one of those opinions was he hasn't seen any failures. Now, I don't know how many bikes he would have coming through his shop or his distributorship he's got there in his, it looks like a garage or workshop, whatever he's got there. And that would be a very small percentage of bikes that are out in the field. So, you know, if he hasn't seen any, that's anecdotal evidence. It doesn't mean that there hasn't been any. It just means he hasn't seen any. Like, you know, all of us around may have mates that have had specialised SR7 Tarmacs and gone, well, none of my mates have had any failures. That doesn't mean that there hasn't been any. So that's an opinion. His own experience, he states that he has rode his for a number of years and he hasn't had any problems, and he actually got out a fork he'd had from another bike and showed you. But interestingly enough, he did actually detect some marks on the fork, but he said they're just superficial marks. Now, I'd probably challenge that. There shouldn't be any marks on the fork at all, and if there is some marks, then that over time then could have turned into an incipient fault, because that's what you've got to look for, any scouring or marks on the fork. There shouldn't be any of those things at all, and that's why they've put that pressure washer in there to spread out the point of contact from the puck to the contact with the fork. So that is opinion I do believe as well, because Specialized obviously do believe there's a problem there. Now, he says DR or Durian Riders frames are fake. Now, this is complete speculation. I don't know if they're fake. Ronnie doesn't know if they're fake. GC Performance and everyone else doesn't know they're fake. Durian Riders saying that they're not fakes. Now, they could be, they could not be. He does tell us to contact Specialized Australia. I haven't done that. You may want to do that. But at the end of the day, they could be fakes, they could not be fakes, but we don't know that for sure. So that's opinion. The squeeze test doesn't represent the quality of the frame. Now, he could be possibly right on this, because that may not be a critical load point, and it being thin could be just normal construction of the latest bikes. And I do know that they're actually making the bike thinner than they used to be, and they're using these newer technology called EPS, which is expanded polystyrene in the frames to get the weights down, because the disc bikes, the groups, are inherently heavier. So they are using different techniques to make the carbon fiber bike thinner to get the weight down. So he may have a point there. The squeeze test may not be a good representation of the quality of the frame. So one there for Ronnie. The bike is safe. Now, he states the bike is safe. Now, this really goes against the whole recall. Specialized would not do a recall if they believe the bike is safe. Why do it? Why cause themselves some brand damage and a financial cost to the company if the bike is safe? So there obviously is a higher failure rate than they have allowed for in their design, and that's why they've done the recall. Well, another statement that Ronnie made, that if you believe anything that jury and writer says, then you're dumb. Now, this is kind of a bit of an insult to his viewers, I thought, and I thought that was uncalled for. Now, we do know that jury and writer was spot on with the recall, and he called it early through his information in the industry. So, you know, that one fact in itself is true. Now, I don't know if you want to believe everything that jury and writer says, that's up to you. But from my experience, I've found that some of the things he does say are pretty on the money. And, you know, you can verify them, like this one with the recall. Other things, you can make up your own minds. Now, Ronald Kuba has a lot to say, and that's fine. We all can get a phone in front of us, and we can get on YouTube, and we can say our opinion on YouTube. And a lot of people do that. They give their opinion. They give their opinion on politics. They give their opinion on bikes. They give their opinion on fishing, whatever it may be. And that's fine. That's great. But when you put in your title the truth, then you really need to break it down to what can be verified. And I do think that Ronnie didn't do this in this video. He let his emotions get away with him, and he did really speculate quite to some significant degree. And, you know, I just wanted to call that out. Now, there's no hate against Ronnie. So, I mean, he obviously is doing a lot better on YouTube than me. He's got a lot more subscribers, and some of the content is pretty good about some of his reviews that he has on there. But I think in this specific circumstance, he probably maybe was a little bit triggered by what some other YouTubers have said, and probably let his emotions get away from him. Well, anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to catch you next vid. Cheers.